Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of I've Been Playing. Today we're going to be talking about the DLC for the 2019 game, Control. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the DLC known as the Foundation. There is another bit of DLC called AWE, which I also have, but I didn't get around to playing it this week, so that's probably something for next week. Stay tuned if you want to hear about that one. Now before we start, I do want to say something. I don't know how far along in the story you have to be to get this started. I finished the game a few months ago, so obviously I have access to it regardless. I could access it immediately. There does seem to be some implication that you have to be fairly far along in the main story, and in fact, the area you get to this DLC, like where you go to get to this bit of DLC is fairly late in the game, so because of that, I'll warn you of spoilers now. If you just want the general impressions of the game, or my general impressions of the game, I will leave a timestamp either in the description below or the comments, or both, telling you where to go if you want just more of an overview without plot specifics. So in this DLC, you are called into a completely new area in the Oldest House, which as a whole is referred to as the Foundation, which is accessed through a sort of mystical looking, like, Lord of the Rings door, which leads to a winding and very like red dust-coated cave. When you get there, you learn that the astral plane, the Foundation, and the Oldest House, they're all kind of merging together, and slowly but surely the astral plane will take over. It's kind of destroying everything, and if it's not stopped, it will basically take over at least the Oldest House, if not just everything in existence. The only way to make sure that this gets under control, see what I did there, is to repair something called the Nail, which essentially holds all the worlds in their own separate places. To do that, you have to locate 4 specific keys, go into the astral plane through each of them, and repair the object inside. As you go through, you realize that somehow you're not the first ones to have made it to that area. You find a whole lot of ID badges, specifically in one area in particular I'm thinking of. There were a bunch of ID badges I was picking up. There were also a bunch of reports and audio logs from a group of researchers from the 60s who, from the sounds of things, ended up getting trapped there by all the crystals you'll see as you go through the area that form specifically there and seem to block things off. Now I realize that's a very brief overview, but that's about as much of the plot of the DLC as I want to get into, and it's about as much as I want to explain without, and can explain without spoiling things for you, and I want you to experience it for yourself if you haven't played it. And actually, I haven't quite finished this piece of DLC yet. It's pretty substantial. I wasn't really keeping close track of how long I was playing, but it was a good 2 or 3 hours I would guess, and I still haven't gotten done with the main portion of it yet. In addition to that, there are some side quests as well. I found 2 so far, 1 I finished. So there's definitely a lot more to explore than you'd expect from DLC normally, at least more than I'd expect from DLC normally. I feel like they've gotten much smaller over the years, or it feels like it, or maybe it depends on the game, I suppose, but it's pretty substantial as far as I can tell, comparatively. The one that I did finish, the one quest that I did finish, is definitely worth seeking out. You do have to it is kind of out of the way, but I do recommend looking for it. I'm not going to tell you where it is. But if you remember the Ashtray Maze part of the game, the main game, it's not nearly as good as that, but it is very similar, and it was still a lot of fun. You also gain access to a couple of new abilities. They're called Shape and Fracture, and they allow you to traverse the area more extensively, and they encourage backtracking and exploration and stuff like that. Especially there are a bunch of chests that you can't access until you get a Fracture, I think, is the one you need to get those. It also has to do with the crystals that are growing in the general area, so there's a lot of exploration based on that and this kind of new mechanic revolving around the crystals, which is pretty awesome. The map, too, is pretty massive. Like, it's basically the size of one of the floors of the building in the main game that you'll explore and you'll encounter over the course of this DLC, this massive map you can see. There are a lot of areas to explore and backtrack in. Honestly, I don't know how it ends yet. As I said, I'm not done with it, but on sheer quantity alone and the fact that it's just as fun as the main game, I'd definitely look into playing the Foundation, and presumably AWE, that's the other DLC, as I said, if you haven't already given them a try. You're definitely going to get a lot of content as well, so check it out. It's definitely worth the price, I would say. I don't remember how much it was. I did get it on sale, but I don't think it's that expensive not on sale. It's definitely worth looking into. And if you haven't checked out Control at all, definitely do that. It was easily one of the best games of that year, even if I did get to it a little later than that. So definitely pick it up if you can. That's all for today. Tune in next Monday where I'll most likely be going over the other bit of Control DLC. Be sure to like if you enjoyed this and subscribe so you can see future impressions and recommendations from me. Bye!